for all of my deals that I've done thus far, I keep my equity partners in long term for the ride. Even when we get them their money back, I keep them in because I felt like they took the risk with me up front, and so they could catch the reward on the back end. And if you get deals that got good margins, and then it should be enough room for everybody to eat, and let's keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because rather than scrambling trying to find a bunch of different partners, get some good ones and hold on to them, treat them good, and then you got longevity in your business. Yeah, we could talk for days on that, right? Yeah. But I would say some of the top ones are, number one, thinking you know more than what you know. Right? I think because of social media, because of the internet, people go and they read and they consume and they just figure they caught a sound bite from this even. And they, and then you go out and you feel like you got it all figured out, but you missed all the intricate steps that you didn't hear the conversation offline, right? Reserves is everything. Right? And so I think a lot of investors and operators forget about that piece, being well capitalized and having reserves and a good run rate, so that if you do got a burn rate because of a pandemic breakout or something of that fashion, you could pay your bills until whatever, right? But I think the pandemic is an outlier only in the sense that everybody was impacted. I think the end game for everybody should be cash flow, because that's wealth. The rest of it is, I mean, you make a lot of money. I made a lot of money doing active income. But at the end of the day, the banks ain't that thrilled about that because you're not holding assets on your balance sheet. Right. And so I don't think it's a right or wrong. I think it's a yes and, but I certainly think for everybody the pinnacle is cash flow, because that's where wealth really resides.
Hey, wait. I know you want to watch this next video, but listen, if you are an entrepreneur, business coach, business consultant, or a small business owner who has a story and wants to learn how to create multiple streams of income from your story, I need you to text me right now, my book, to 646-687-4152. That is my personal number. I have been an author for over 12 years. I've written 10 books. 4 of them have been bestsellers, and I've sold over 100,000 books. But I've also helped a lot of my clients take their expertise and put it into a story, then create multiple streams of income from that. So I want to help you do the same thing. So text my book to 646-687-4152. All right, let's go back to the video. So welcome to another awesome episode of Inside the Vault with Ash Cash, the greatest money mindset show on the planet. Listen, we got an exciting show for you today. With over 16 years of experience in real estate investing via fix and flip, wholesale, and cash flow, he currently owns over 100 commercial multifamily units and was able to walk away from corporate America before turning 35. He is the founder of BBR Education Group and teaches students all over the world how to build 6- and 7-figure businesses in 12 months, learning to leverage other people's money and investing remotely. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for my man, Brian Allison. What's up, brother?
Appreciate you, my guy. What's happening, Ash?
Man, I'm excited about this because I feel like, anytime we can highlight stories of triumph, I want to do it, right? I believe, I have a saying that I said, we are all greatness on display. G-O-D, made in the image and likeness of God. And I think that, we go through things in life on purpose so that we can show how great, our Father is, right? Regardless of your religion, right? So this is not even religious. This is just whatever you believe in. And you have a phenomenal story, but owning over 100 commercial multifamily, that's something that people who are born with a silver spoon in their mouth don't even do, right? And so that's a major thing. And so I'm happy to bring you on. I'm sure our audience is going to relate to you. We're going to talk all about the real estate game and how to use other people's money to build wealth. But before we even get to there, for those who don't know, who is Brian Adamson?
Bro, I'm blessed. I've been blessed with a wife for the last 16 years who gave me the freedom to move around and take risk and put our family in position to build generational wealth. Like, I think a lot of times we talk about generational wealth from the pass down to assets, which we have those.
Yeah.
But it's really the pass down to knowledge.
Wow.
Like, I had a daughter at 18, and our daughter now had her first property at 18.
Wow.
Right? So the real pass down to generational wealth is passing down the skill, not the stuff. Right? I'm blessed because I grew up in an 800 square foot house and now I own over 100 apartments. I'm blessed because I walked away from a job at 35 years old, and now I got people all over the world who I'm teaching how to invest in real estate and change their lives, who retired by 30 themselves. I'm blessed because I got parents who taught me work ethic that I've been able to parlay and build wealth. You know what I'm saying? When I look at my life, where I come from in Detroit, and to see where I'm at today, I'm sitting here with you,
yes, sir,
talking about my body of work like I'm blessed.
Yes,
you know
sir.
what I'm saying?
Yes,
That's
sir.
who I am.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I love it. And take us on this journey on how you got into real estate, because I think that what people, I hope people realize by now that there isn't a wealthy person living, dead, who's not here yet, that has not been who has wealth that hasn't done it by leveraging real estate, right? Even when you think about some of the major companies in the world and, you know, their valuations, majority of that valuation, like Facebook, people are like, oh, Facebook is worth billions of dollars. They also own billions of dollars of real estate. Like, people don't understand that the value of businesses come through real estate. And so, you know, take us to that journey. How did the light bulb, light for you that you knew that real estate was the way?
Yeah. So, you know, as I mentioned, growing up in the city of Detroit, you know, my first go at entrepreneurship was emulating the guys in the streets. And, you know, I was looking at a 4 to 10-year felony when I was 17, my senior year in high school. I was on my way to college on a full ride academic scholarship, but as one could imagine, I was distracted.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Didn't know what was going on with my freedom. And so, by God's grace, I gave my life to Christ around that time, and, you know, he redeemed me, you know, and I didn't end up doing prison time. And I actually, you know, got rematriculated back into college, and that's when I learned about real estate, right? It was a friend of mine, 20 years my senior, who was flipping houses. I didn't know what any of that meant, but he gave me an opportunity. He was like, look, these buyers, right, they don't have the money for the down payment. And so he gave me an opportunity to leverage my refund checks in college to cover their down payment, and then he gave me a return on my investment. So I legitimately started as a de facto private lender. I didn't understand it that way as I do now. But that's how I got started. And then I quickly figured out if they buying properties with stated income loans, then I could do the same thing. So I started buying rental property while I was in college. And then, you know, when the market contracted, I found myself exposed like everybody else. And but I wasn't jaded. I'm like, this stuff was a lot more expensive 2 years ago, right? So I bought up 20 properties from 2008 to 10. I was 24, 25 years old, you know what I mean? And that was kind of like the intro.
And then now, you know, you got your feet wet. You're learning, you know, the power of real estate, and you went from, you know, flipping houses, wholesale. How do you get to owning commercial buildings?
I think for every investor, right? I've been doing this almost 2 decades. Your appetite change over time. So, like, when I first started investing in rental properties, I didn't appreciate that money. That money was slow for me because I was doing a new thing in an old environment, right? And so my mindset hadn't changed, and I didn't really appreciate that I really started building wealth back then. I just looked at it as a legitimate way to make money, right? And so that's why proximity is key. You gotta, when you make a decision that you wanna start moving in a different direction, then you gotta start hanging out with people that fit your future and not your past, right? And so I eventually got to a point where made a ton of mistakes on my own. I've been out there on my own for 8 years. I knew I was missing something, and finally found mentorship, right? And people laugh when I say this, but I legitimately didn't know that mentorship existed until like 2015.
Wow.
Because where I come from, it's just not talked about.
Yeah.
Right? And so as soon as I found it, and I found that magic door where everybody behind it was doing the stuff that I wanted to do, I was like, this is it, right? And then I started to invest and started to develop some skill and move from just being opportunistic to actually developing some skill and going out and start, you know, building active income through flipping and wholesaling. And where I'm at in life, as you mentioned, retired from corporate America, full-time entrepreneur, it's important when banks look at you, as you know, being in the banking industry,
Yes, sir.
net worth, assets, all those things. And so I made the pivot into commercial multifamily.
Yeah. No, I love that. And so now, if somebody wanted to get into real estate investing, and then brand new, never bought anything, that resembles real estate, where's the first space? Where's the first place that a new investor would start?
Education. If I had to do it all over again, I would go back and get educated from day one. I think a lot of people default into what they think is the cheapest way to start, which is typically wholesaling. But it's not, because if you're not spending any of your money on the investment, then it all costs the same. So what you're lacking is not the money. Money is never your problem. The knowledge is your problem. So I would have them first go out and get educated, and secondly, then develop what are your goals. Right? Some of our students on our program, they want to retire in the next 2 years. So then cash flow is a good model to create residual income to cover their monthly expenditure. Right? Other ones want to go out and just have more, discretionary money for spending, or chunks of money for whatever, right? They want to pivot, start putting into other investments. Then, wholesaling and flipping houses is a good start for them. And so I think for everybody it's unique, but it all starts with what's your goal, and then whatever that is, reverse engineer the process to get there.
No, I love that. And you emphasize a lot around the strategy of using other people's money to get into real estate. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Absolutely. I think that when we look at it, right, typically it's this negative stigma connotation around asking people for money. Particularly because I think that we misconstrued the difference between lending and giving from the time we were adolescents. Right? Can I borrow some money? Right? Well, when you get into the investment world, you figure out that lending is indicative of a perceived investment and a return on investment. Right? Otherwise, you giving is charity. Right? And so, when you look at it that way and you understand it from that vein, you realize that there's far more people with money than there are opportunities and viable operators. And so if you can put yourself in a position to show up as a competent operator in most rooms where there's money, people got money but don't have the time nor the ambition to learn real estate. So if you can align yourself with those individuals and be able to package and deliver a conversation and a presentation to show them how you can grow their money in their absence based on your body of work, you could raise as much money as you ever need to do your business.
Wow. I love what you just said there, though, that there's more money than competent operators. Like people, more opportunity, out there. There's more people who have the money, but less people who know what to do with the money or help, stretch that money, which is also goes back to what you said about education, right? Because if you educate yourself and then now you learn about different aspects of real estate, learning about how to buy a commercial property, how to structure a deal, and kind of all of that education that goes into it. Now, when you go into a room and there's people that have money, now you could speak intelligently about what you're able to do with their money, right? And so, buying your first commercial property, did you buy it on cash? Did you use other people's money? Did you raise money? Like take us through that journey of the first time you bought your first commercial property.
Yeah, so my first one was a 6-unit, and I raised all the money for it. I went and got 3 investors. I raised the capital for it, and then 12, 13 months later, we did a cash-out refinance, extracted out their capital plus some equity, tax-free, by the way, because it was a cash-out refinance. Paid them off, and then I'm the sole owner of the building thereafter.
All right, so hold on. So, how much was this building?
So the building was $200,000.
All right, so $200,000 for this building, 6-unit building. You go and you ask 3 investors. So you didn't put any of your money in. Zero. So you went to 3 investors, and y'all bought it cash.
Yep.
And so 3 investors. They give you, let's say 2 gave you 50,000, 1 gave you 100. Let's just say that, right? So now you buy this property, right? They have some equity in the property. No.
I'm going to give you the whole play. I'm going to give everybody the whole play.
Here's 3 reasons why being in a small room with like-minded people who are ready to change their life will cause the greatest impact in your life than you could ever imagine. Reason number 1, the basis of the conversation. Reason number 2, because you're going to be having intimate conversations. And now reason number 3, which is powerful, it's going to be a tailored teaching experience. Now, with that being said, on July 15th, Atlanta, Georgia, me, myself, Storm Leroy, the employed millionaire, and I'm bringing special guests. We're going to collaborate together to make sure we give you enough knowledge and experience in this room of only 50 people that will change your life and your legacy. I need you to click that link below. Make sure you're in attendance. Click the link. I'll see you in Atlanta, July 15th, Atlanta, Georgia. And remember to do what? Always seek knowledge. Peace.
So I went and raised the 200 grand at 8%. Right, so when we bought the asset, it was already tenants in it, but it was underperforming, and I knew we could come in and raise the rents and increase the equity, the whole 9. So what I did was I borrowed the $200,000 for 12 months at 8%. So I gave them 8% every single month. So even while I was repositioning the building, even if it wasn't cash flowing enough, I still made sure they got their 8% return. Right, so they were getting residual income every month, which is why at the end of the 12 months I was able to exit and just give them back their initial capital because they made 8% annual return.
Gotcha.
That way they didn't have any equity in the building.
Gotcha.
I was the sole owner the entire time.
Gotcha.
You follow me? So I just put debt on it, you know what I mean, as opposed to equity.
Right, so now $200,000 they give it to you. The building's already cash flowing, so there is no mortgage on it.
Correct.
So all the money that's cash flowing from that from the property is just to pay them the 8%. But the building's underperforming, so you could begin to do some things that's gonna make the building more profitable. Come the end of the year, you refinance this building now. It's probably worth more.
For sure.
And then now, because it's worth more, you're able to extract the $200,000, pay them back, and then now you have a property that you own outright with no other investors based on using other people's money.
100%. We increased the value in 12 months from like 3.25 up to 450. But even when we did the cash out refinance, I only pulled 2.25 out because I knew I was still repositioning the building, so I didn't want to choke off the cash flow too much. Right. So I leave the equity in it, pull back enough to get them their paper back, put like 25 grand tax free in my pocket, and then just let it do what it does.
Wow. And so wow. So that's a concept, right? And so now you continue to do that. Are there, as the deals get bigger and bigger, do you continue to raise money from private investors? Can you raise money from private investors and lenders? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So my next deal after that one was a 40 unit, right? And so I took a bridge loan because we got like $1 million rehab on it. Okay, so I took a bridge for like 75%. And then I went and raised the other 25% plus some additional carrying cost and whatnot. So what I did was, we giving out all kind of game right now, just so you know. Right?
I hope y'all catching it. I hope y'all catching it.
Yeah. So what I do, if in certain situations, right, I would open up 50% of my deal to my equity partners. Okay, so in this particular context, I went and got $500,000. I opened up 50% equity. So 2 investors, I went and got $250,000 from each one of them. Gave them 25% apiece, right? So they participate in the equitable upside, right? As well as the 50% of the cash flow. They catch the depreciation for the tax write-off. And then, in the next 24 to 36 months, when we in position to refi, we'll extract out most, if not all of that capital, and then move it to the next asset, right? So now their return went from maybe 8 to 12% to 20% to possibly infinity, depending on how much of this equity we extract out on the other side of it. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, I didn't put none of my money into the deal. I just came as a competent operator and put the deal together.
Right. And then when you do that, like in this particular deal where they have equity, when you refi, are you paying them out? Do they have equity for a certain amount of time, or their partners, their equity partners in perpetuity?
So every investor is different, and every deal is different, and I always say that nothing is all or nothing, right?
Yeah.
But for all of my deals that I've done thus far, I keep my equity partners in long term for the ride. Even when we get them their money back, I keep them in because I felt like they took the risk with me up front,
right?
And so they could catch the reward on the back end.
Right.
And if you get deals that got good margins, and then it should be enough room for everybody to eat, and let's keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because rather than scrambling trying to find a bunch of different partners, get some good ones and hold on to them, treat them good, and then you got longevity in your business.
Yeah. And so, what are like the common mistakes that people make, right? Because all of this sounds awesome, right? I mean, we know, interest rates are high. We know inflation is through the roof. It feels like we're in a recession, but CNBC keeps saying we're not in one, right? They keep saying, oh, it's about to be. I was like, whoa, I thought we were in one, but they keep saying it's not. And we've seen it, 2008, 2009. Real estate bubble crashes, and a lot of people, I was talking to somebody who lost $30 million like in real estate. And so what are some common mistakes that people make getting into this, getting into the real estate game? And then how do you protect yourself from sort of like losing it all?
Yeah, we could talk for days on that, right?
Yeah.
But I would say some of the top ones are, number one, thinking you know more than what you know, right? I think because of social media, because of the internet, people go and they read and they consume and they just figure they caught a sound bite from this even,
right?
And right, and then you go out and you feel like you got it all figured out, but you missed all the intricate steps that you didn't hear the conversation offline, right?
Yeah.
That's one way. The second is especially for people that got their own capital. They take for granted because they've been fortunate to make money in a different setting that they don't need to still take the time to learn real estate investing. Because having your own money is one of the fastest ways to light it on fire. Right. Another one is not properly knowing how to underwrite deals. Right. Before we even send our deals to our lenders, we've already put it through a stress test so that your lender shouldn't have to tell you no. You should know whether or not you got a viable opportunity. Right. So not knowing how to properly underwrite deals, not knowing how to properly evaluate properties, comparables, and all those types of things. And then last but not least, the Achilles heel of our business is if you don't have good contractors, you can't win.
Yeah. And then what are the ways though, right? Is this a surefire thing? Like, is it like, all right, I'm investing in real estate and I'm gonna be rich forever? Or are there possible pitfalls or ways to hedge yourself against potentially losing in real estate?
Yeah, it's always a hedge against. I think that's one of the fortunate parts about our mentorship program, because I lost a half a ticket, right? I lost $500,000 in this business many years ago, and that became the birthing place for my mentorship program years later, because I learned in that moment everything that I needed and didn't have in terms of coach, infrastructure, and all those things. And so I built our program based off of showing people how to mitigate and hedge against the risk points that exist, right? And the dictionary definition of entrepreneur is a risk taker. So there's inherent risk to everything we do, but knowing how to properly underwrite deals, knowing how to put accountability measures in your business, knowing how to insulate yourself from the woes of dealing with contractors. If you can get really proficient at those things, you at least stand a chance, right? Yeah. And I had somebody last night on our challenge ask me, we do a 5-day challenge, and he owns like 5 properties currently, and he said, what would be my philosophy on going out, taking equity out of these properties to then go buy other properties? And I told him that's a great question, because a lot of people don't think about that. They just go extract equity and start going buying other stuff. But what you got to look at is, what does that do for the cash flow on the current property that you extracting the equity from? Because as you pull equity, your debt service is going up. Right? If it's free and clear, now you got mortgage on it. And if you had a mortgage, your mortgage just increased.
Right.
And so how do you keep yourself in a safe position that as you pull equity, that you're making sure that you're keeping enough meat on the bone in terms of your margin on your cash flow, so that you can continue to be in a safe place that if something did happen crazy in the market, that you're still in a good position.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a continuation of first having the knowledge, and then knowing how to apply it in all of those situations, because nothing is all or nothing.
Yeah, yeah. And I love what you said there. And is there a formula or a way that somebody could follow so that they're not over leveraging, right? Because I feel like majority of the people that I hear, right, who, and like, I know the power of debt, right? Using debt the right way, and being able to use debt to purchase an income producing asset, using other people's money. But if you are leveraging, if you're leveraging too much, let's just say, right? So now you got $30 million worth of properties, but you got $20 million worth of loans out. Now, something catastrophic happens, right? COVID happens. Most states put a moratorium on paying your bills, right? So now, your tenants are not paying, so that cash flow is gone. You still got this debt service of $20 million, and there ain't no moratorium on the banks foreclosing. I mean, maybe, but I didn't think there was for commercial. So now they still want their mortgage. You're not getting payment, and then now you're in a conundrum where they could potentially take your properties. Like, what's the formula? How does somebody say, okay, as I'm using debt, let me follow this particular blueprint to make sure that I don't over leverage debt to the point where if somebody pulls the rug from under me, they're not in full control of my wealth and of my destiny.
For sure. It's two different ways you can approach it. One being your reserves is everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think a lot of investors and operators forget about that piece, being well capitalized and having reserves and a good run rate, so that if you do got a burn rate because a pandemic breakout or something of that fashion, you could pay your bills until whatever, right? But I think the pandemic is an outlier only in the sense that everybody was impacted. Right. Typically, you feel the pain as an investor based off of
something
the detriment that you did.
Right.
So I think, that kind of evened the playing field, but as a general consensus, you need to be well capitalized and have good reserves.
Yeah.
The other piece is I buy a lot in the affordable housing space, right? And so, we get a lot of subsidized rents in my portfolio, and I strategically did that because God gave me the vision to invest in commercial multifamily in the height of the pandemic. It was like June, right? June 20th, 2020, he gave me the vision on Father's Day. And so strategically, I started pursuing opportunities to where I knew I could cover myself with subsidized rents and at least having majority, if not all, of my portfolio initially as my backbone to stand on, and then build from there.
AKA Section 8.
That part.
Right? AKA the government is not going out of business. AKA that the government is the one printing out the money. So, let's talk about your challenge. You talk about you have a 5-day challenge. Let's talk about what people could learn during the 5 days. And one of the things that I like a lot about your methodology is the fact that you teach about remote investing, right? And the reason why I like it, and I mean, insiders, I know y'all gonna like this as well, because a lot of our insiders who watch the show have jobs, or potentially have a side hustle, or they're entrepreneurs who are working in their business, so they don't have a lot of time. But they're trying to figure it out, right? They got a lot of income coming in. They're trying to figure out, how do I build this wealth? And you have a methodology that helps them create a system around investing in real estate, but they're doing it remotely. Talk to us about that.
100%. So I live in Orlando. I moved to Orlando from Detroit 13 years ago now. So it became a default strategy for me, because although I invested in Orlando, I mean, when you look at the returns, it just, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
The juice don't always justify the squeeze. And so for those reasons, I'm like,
you got to be from Detroit. You got all them slick sayings. The juice don't justify the squeeze.
how you do anything, how you do everything.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So you know, I had to figure out how to make it work so that I wasn't relegated to the looks that my market was giving me, but putting myself in the most advantageous spot where the best looks were.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we figured it out. And once we figured it out, we started sharing it with the world. Yeah. No pun intended. Like, we got students in 3 different countries that been able to adopt our remote processes and do business without ever even coming to the States.
Wow.
And so it's just a phenomenal tool because, you know, for those that want to retire, as you mentioned, you know, if you got 10, 12 hours a week cumulatively, right, you can really start to build you a 6- and 7-figure business by being able to, because remote is oftentimes associated with doing it from afar, which is some truth to that.
Right.
But the way in which we structure our remote process is essentially having somebody on your team that replicates your efforts in your absence. So now, by having that liaison in between and they're dealing with the day-to-day, that gives you the opportunity to do the 2 things that are most important to any investor: underwriting and finding deals, and lining up the capital, right? So if you can focus on those things while they focus on, and I don't want to call it menial because it's important,
right?
But more of the minutia, I will call, then that allows you to still run your stable thing, whatever that is, your day-to-day, while growing this thing in tandem with it until eventually that thing overthrows that thing and then you win.
Yeah. No, I love it. And so now, you know, they get an opportunity to spend 5 days with you.
For sure.
As you know, kind of teach them how to get in the game. So, like, talk to me about, man, this 5-day challenge you got going on.
I could give you day by day if you want me to.
Let's go. Let's do it.
So day 1, we teach them the difference between traditional and remote investing, right? How they could really turn the volume up with the remote strategy. And then day 2, we teach them the 7-figure formula, right? Everybody want to know how to become a millionaire. I show them how to do it in some simple steps in 12 months, okay? Day 3, we teach them about the psychology of becoming an OPM magnet, right? Because raising capital is not just putting opportunities in front of people. It's psychology built into that whole process, right? And so we take them through that process, and then on day 4, we show them the time freedom cash flow formula, how to essentially buy their time back through real estate investing. And then day 5, we bring it all together and give them a customized investment plan because everybody's goals are unique to them. So it shouldn't be one size fit all, right? And so we pull it all together on day 5. It's a phenomenal time. And each day they get to ask me questions in VIP for 1 hour before we get into the class session.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, there's no surprise, but I'm a big fan of the challenge model. I think that now more than ever, it's important that people get to know who they're investing their time with and their money, right?
100%.
When you know, there's a lot of, especially in this financial education space, especially in this these times, right, where people are panicking, people are trying to figure things out. You know, AI is taking over 300 million jobs, and you know, then people don't know what's happening. You know, they are you know, in panic mode, and they're looking for people to teach them. You know, sometimes doing a free webinar, you know, that at the end they're going to sell you something, may not be enough time for you to really get to feel and know who this person is. But having the opportunity to spend 5 days with somebody, having the opportunity to, ask them questions and get advice tailored specifically to you, you know, also gives you this idea of, you know, now I know who this person is, because you cannot fake for 5 days, right? You know who the person is, you know what information you're getting, and in that way, when it's time to potentially work with this person, you already know, you know, sort of like what you're getting, right? So I love that model in these times. What is, you know, how do, like with all the ups and downs you've had in your life, I'm sure even as a successful businessman, there's still ups and downs that happen. What is your go-to mechanism to coping with or overcoming any obstacles that come in your way?
Prayer, bro. Prayer.
Yeah.
Like, God blessed me with phenomenal people in my circle.
Yeah.
Right? It's so important to have, especially when you high capacity, that you got other high capacity people around you that believe in something beyond themselves, that can come around and pick you up in those moments.
Yeah.
And iron sharpens iron, right? And so in one vein they may be picking you up, the next vein you picking them up, but that's what that looks like. You know what I mean? That's the ecosystem of staying healthy, in my humble opinion. But a lot of prayer and a lot of just trying to stay centered.
Yeah.
Every day though, literally.
Yeah.
Like it's you know what it is. Like 100%. From the time I wake up, I'm fighting to stay centered.
Facts.
Before the scraps start.
Facts.
Because that's what's coming for the day, right? And then you repeat the cycle. And so for me, I just try to stay as close to him as possible, particularly because he the one that gave me a purpose for my life. So I just keep trying to seek him and stay aligned with that. So I'm working on the right things in the right seasons because I'm tired of do-overs. I done been rich and miserable. You know what I'm saying? Like I want everything that come along with what he got planned for my life. You know?
Yeah, no, I love that because I feel like, you know, when you think about business, I've had, you know, I've had spaces in my life where I didn't have money, but I was happy. Then I had spaces where I had a lot of money, but I wasn't happy. Then I had spaces where I had money and I was happy. Then I had spaces where I didn't have money and I wasn't happy, right? So like in realizing all of the different ebbs and flows of life, of business, of just, you know, trying to just survive and thrive on a day-to-day basis, you know, my goal every day as well is to stay as close to the middle as possible.
For sure.
Right? Because if you get too high, that fall's going to hurt. And if you get too low, the air down there is going to suffocate you. Right? And so you want to be able to stay in the middle where you could breathe, where you could, you know that anything that happens is God's will. And so there isn't this level of anxiety. There isn't this level of depression. There isn't this level of trying to figure things out because you're starting the day, you know, on the right balance, right? You're starting the day knowing that, you know, trusting, like, all right, whatever it is, but also, again, you know, staying towards that middle to make sure that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor,
For
right?
sure.
Because look, abundance is your birthright, and so if abundance is your birthright, you shouldn't have abundance and not be able to enjoy it, right? And so when you think about the different strategies that you have from, fix and flip, wholesaling, commercial, you know, what strategy are you teaching during the 5-day challenge and why?
So I actually teach them active and passive strategies. And the reason is because on day 5, when we build out their customized investment model, they need to know. Yeah. Right. And so I'm giving them as many tools to have in their tool belt so they can build it the right way. So we teaching them about active and passive strategies.
And break that down for me, right? Because you know, when I hear active, right? When I hear passive, you know, I understand it as, you know, one is you're in it, right? You're working hard. Passive is, you know, you put the systems together and the money's coming, you know, to you, right? I mean, both have their advantages, disadvantages, nuances, but when you say active, what is, like, paint that picture for me. What does that look like?
For sure. So active will be like flipping and wholesaling, right? And it's active because once you go produce that check, you out of business again, right? Pipeline is key in real estate investing, especially when you got active, because there's no residual to that. Yeah. Right? So you go make $100,000, you can't stare at the trophy for long because you got to go figure out how to go do that again. Yeah. Whereas passive is you make the investment once. So essentially, you know, cash flow is synonymous with passive. Yeah. So, you know, you buy the property one time, you make the investment once, the tenant continues to pay you over time. Got it. Yeah. So that's I would say that's the easiest distinction between the two.
And so would you say that a healthy portfolio is a portfolio that has both, or is it up to the person to choose which direction they want to go?
It's interesting. I think the end game for everybody should be cash flow, because that's wealth. Yeah. The rest of it is, I mean, you make a lot of money. I made a lot of money doing active income. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the banks ain't that thrilled about that because you're not holding assets on your balance sheet. right? And so I don't think it's a right or wrong. I think it's a yes and, but I certainly think for everybody the pinnacle is cash flow, because that's where wealth really resides.
Yeah. So ultimately, like, even if you come into the game active, right, flipping houses, and kind of like being a wholesale, being the middle person. Ultimately, you wanna hold assets. You wanna buy and hold. You wanna have the tenants and kind of build from there. What does the future look like for Brian? Like when it's all said and done, what are you looking to do, and where are you looking to take this real estate empire?
Hotel 2024. Yeah.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah. My father was a doorman at a hotel back in the 70s, right? And every time I go to the restaurant downtown Detroit that's inside of that hotel, it reminds me of that. The restaurant that he probably never ate in.
Wow.
Right? And so, God done gave me this much runway, so why stop now?
Right. And what's the is it different, like is it different buying a hotel than buying a commercial property? Like, how do you like what's the nuances in structuring those deals?
Yeah, I mean, so the underwriting process is different.
Yeah.
Right. And in truth, I haven't even started the education aspect of it yet. Right. So I got 4 moves: desire, education, practitioner, expert. You do that in any industry in that order, you're gonna be successful. So I got the desire.
Yeah.
By later this year, I'll start the education aspect, and then I'll be swinging in 2024 on the practitioner. Faith without works is dead.
Facts,
I just got to get the play, and I'm gonna go run it.
Yeah.
And I never take for granted at any point, even after I've been doing single family for 14 years. When I got into commercial multifamily, I went and got a mentor. Like I never take for granted that I know more than what I know.
Yeah.
Right. And so I already got a mentor who's in that space. And so I told him earlier this year, I said, it's on the radar.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm waiting on you.
Dope.
So, I'm really just focusing on our students right now. I've been having a lot of fun with this challenge and just seeing the breakthroughs for people. And I stopped buying. I was going to buy another 100 commercial multifamily units this year, but I pulled back for that reason, because I really got the appetite for hotel next year, and I want to create some margin so that I could really focus on that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And like, like just real estate in itself, like again, I know that there's different, like nuances and different ways that somebody could get into real estate. When you think about from like a legacy perspective, right? And you talk about mentorship, you talk about learning, right? And the mentor you chose was the mentor that helped you get to where you are right now, is the mentor that's helping you, your wife, your daughter, right? Like, because inadvertently, what they teach you, you're passing that knowledge down. How does one, or how do you know when you're choosing the right mentor? Like, how do you go about sort of like finding the right person to teach you?
For me, do they align with me morally, ethically, and have the semblance of the type of achievements that I probably would want to garner as well?
Yep.
Those are the 3 main ingredients for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not just about, it's a ton of people that could teach you a ton of stuff about how to make money.
Yeah.
But to your point, I've had seasons where I've been rich and miserable.
Yeah.
So I know that money ain't the answer. I got to be fed and stimulated on other levels, and I want to be around people that I can identify on those other levels with.
Yeah.
Because that exists. That package exists. You just got to find it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Have you ever invested in a wrong mentor?
Yeah. I have.
What were some of the red flags?
Just didn't align ethically.
Yeah.
And just their energy and their movement.
Yeah.
Right. And so you get in the tactics and the strategies, but it's just something that's off.
Yeah.
Right. And when you got to be careful of what you consume, because it can consume you. And so I'm just sensitive to that.
Yeah.
And when I see it, when you've been through enough, you just kind of, I'd rather just wait on him to show me what's right instead of just doing something was wrong, because that's what's in front of me.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so like 5-day challenge again. We want them to come, spend 5 days with you. We'll have a link in the description where you can tap in. I think it's iflipthevault.com. We got a special offer for you. So definitely tap in below. But when you think about the 5-day challenge, what is the one promise, or what will anybody joining that 5-day challenge? What are they getting out of it once they're done? Who do they become?
So we've had people who restored their marriages through our program.
Wow. We've
had people who in their 40s been battling with strongholds that they gotten on the other side of.
Wow.
Like it's
bigger than real estate.
It's bigger than real estate.
Yeah.
Because I be doing everybody a disservice if I only show them the X's and O's.
Right.
And I got a lot of practical application, and much of which is based off of biblical principles that just work.
Yeah.
And when you apply them, they just work. You know what I mean? And there's no prerequisite, you know what I mean? You don't have to have a certain belief system or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't shy away from my content either, because I know what worked.
Right.
And so for those reasons, he does what he does. You know, when you show up fully present as a vessel.
Right.
And they getting fed real estate, they learning how to get the bag. But it's teaching them who they need to become to, number one, even be prepared to get the bag, and then sustain and grow it after you get it.
Right. Be fruitful and multiply. Like, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like, we see, especially in our community, we think about, when they talk about, $1.3 trillion that come through, our hands, and that if we were our own nation, we would be one of the top 10 nations by themselves, just our community, if you extracted us. So when we hear stats like that, when we hear that, by 2056, the average net worth of the black family will be at 0, right? And there's a lot of us going in the right direction, but there's still so much room. When we hear these stats, it makes us just kind of wonder, like, man, like, it's not just about getting the bag, right? Because a lot of us know how to do that. But how do you keep it? How do you maintain it? How do you stretch it? How do you, be fruitful, but how do you multiply? And so I think that's important as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was at TD Jake's event, and he mentioned that about the median income going to 0.
Yeah.
Right, in the black community. That's a scary statistic, bro.
Yeah.
And that's not a lot of time. Like at 20, like what you said, 2050. That sound like a long way,
right?
Bro, that's around the corner though. In our world, right?
Yeah. And I think, I think it's just a matter of shying away from the ideology that we need to look a certain way, right? Because we're spending money to look a certain way, and that's where most of our wealth is going. It's going to designer clothes, luxury. It's going to alcohol and food consumption. So there's a lot of our money that's just being that's leaving our community, where they say the average average dollar stays about 6 hours in our community. Right?
I mean, think about it. We get the bag to pay the people to give us the stuff to make it look like we got the bag, but now they got the bag.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
Exactly.
And don't get me. I mean, I like what I like.
Right. What I'm saying.
Right. But it's have your assets pay for your liability.
Exactly.
Though.
And I think that's the biggest thing, right? So we talk about that, and I think people don't realize, like, when people who teach finance tell you don't spend money on things, it's not saying don't spend money on things at all. It's saying don't spend your active income on things, right? Like, if you have to physically work hard for something, regardless of how you had to work, how hard you had to work, or how much you could be making $1 million a day. You still should not be. If you're working for that $1 million, you still should not be using that money to buy things. You should be investing that $1 million or whatever it is. It could be $1,000, whatever it is. You should be investing that money, and then from that investment, as that investment is paying you back dividends, if you're smart, you're gonna reinvest it, right? But it's okay if a portion of that money is being extracted, as a way to now, enjoy, right? Like have your cake, eat it, right? It's just giving you that access. And so, as somebody who's been through, again, ups and downs, different adversities. There's somebody watching right now who may be going through adversity, who may be trying to figure out, how do they get to the next level? What advice are you giving to that person who is just they're at the brink? They're trying to get to that next level, but life just keep lifing, right? Like what advice do you have for that person?
So literally on during our challenge, a lady who recently she had to step away from her career of 20 years. She's in a bad way financially, and she just feels like investing in real estate is impossible. Right? And she asked me, what should she do? And I said, well, the first thing that you got to do is ask yourself the question, do you really feel like it's impossible? Because if you really feel that it's impossible, then it won't be.
Wow.
So the first thing we have to do is allow ourselves to the freedom of thinking beyond our current set of circumstances, right? I think a lot of time, back to the suffocation conversation you were having, we get crushed by the weight of our current set of circumstances that it inhibits us to think beyond it. And you got to be able to think beyond it to get out of it.
Wow, that's good.
Right? Yeah, and so the first thing I would tell them is just get clear about what you want your life to look like. Don't let this snapshot dictate what the whole portrait could be. And so first think beyond your set of circumstances, and after you do that, then you got to start taking actionable steps. Like, nobody gets to play victim in this world. It just don't work like that.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you somebody of faith, I highly recommend you pray, but then you got to get to work, because the words say faith without works is dead.
Right.
And you're not going to think your way to success. It's just not going to happen. And you ain't going to worry your way to success. You ain't going to complain your way to success. And so you got to start counteracting whatever situation that you're currently in and taking actionable steps in the right direction with the right wise counsel to get you closer to the goal.
Right. No, I love it. Take me back, man. With everything that you've been through now, everything that you know, what advice are you giving to 18-year-old Brian?
Everything you think is important really ain't.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what you want to do. Go start finding those people. I think a lot of time we come from the hood, and it's this unwritten rule of everybody got to stay together.
Yeah.
But if everybody ain't going to the same place, then how we all gonna stay together and get there?
That's a fact. Yeah.
And that ain't no loss of love for nobody. It's a fact, to your point.
Right.
And the sooner that we can start breaking down these constructs that we've been fed as children, just more programming, and understand how the real world work and understand how real life work. And that's why proximity is so key, because if you're around everybody and they all under that same doctrine, then how do you ever know something different?
Right.
And so as soon as you get an inkling that you know what you want to do, start doing research, take the responsibility and ownership of finding those people that's doing those things, and start getting in those rooms with those folks, and you will start doing the things that they're doing.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, and I think that more than ever, I believe that our community is waking up to the fact that mentorship is important. Education is important, and it's not just traditional education, right? We've, drank the Kool-Aid and just believe that, go to school, right? Pay all this money, and that's the way to success. But when you really dig deep and you really look at everybody who's gone to school, they're not the ones that have the massive success, right? Most of the entrepreneurs you look up to did not go to college, right? They dropped out, they did something, and I'm not advocating dropping out, but I'm saying that if you just look at it, college isn't a prerequisite for success as an entrepreneur. Mentorship is, though, right? Mentorship is a prerequisite, because most people that I know that have been successful have had mentors. Their mentors have shown them, have helped them, from making mistakes. Has shown them how to move. Has shown them what to do, what not to do, how to fast track their success. And so mentorship is super duper important. If y'all need to spend 5 days with Brian. He is going to give you the blueprint to how to create active and passive income through real estate. And while you're at it, he's gonna add some spiritual elements in it, right? That's really gonna get you to the next level. So I need y'all, hit the link below, tap in or go to iflipthevault.com. We got a special offer. I encourage you to do VIP because as when you do VIP, you get an opportunity to actually speak to him, and that way he can kind of give you specific guidance, not like general, right? If you get general admission, you're still in the room, right? So it's still proximity. So it's no love lost, right, to our general admission folks. But VIP says what it is, right? VIP, you are getting access to be able to ask those questions, and now you're not getting general advice, you're getting specific advice that allows people to really kind of build and get to that next level.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. All right, Brian. Any last words for our insiders before we wrap up?
I just want to piggyback a thought that you just made.
Yeah.
Like, the poor and the middle class stop investing in themselves after college. The rich and the wealthy invest more after college.
Facts.
Because if you can pay somebody to teach you how to go get a job, then you don't think you need to pay somebody to teach you how to get rich who's already done it? Mm-hmm. I'll just end on that.
That's it. Look, we dropping the mic. Yo, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me, man. YouTube, Brian Adamson Real Estate, Brian Adamson Official on Instagram, and I think that's Brian Adamson Official everywhere else after that.
All right, y'all. Listen, we are closing out the vault. Another awesome episode of Inside the Vault with Ash Cash. Make sure you join the 5-day challenge. iflipthevault.com. Spend 5 days with Brian. Brian's going to give you the plays and get you to that next level. Make sure you visit us, InsideTheVaultShow.com. Like, subscribe, rate. You can do all that stuff on the website. Follow us on all social media platforms at Inside the Vault. Me, I am Ash Cash. Make sure you visit me, IamAshCash.com. Follow me on all social media platforms at I am Ash Cash. And make sure you join the abundance community. I'm telling you, we got a lot of things. We just started the Abundance Fit Club. We got abundance coaches. We got a lot abundance couples coming soon. So we got a lot going on in the abundance community. But most importantly, we got behind the scenes, right? Brian got gems that he didn't even say on this show that you're gonna see behind the scenes. We got episodes that didn't even drop yet that you can actually watch on the Abundance Community. So go to abundancecommunity.org, join us, become a member, and we'll see you next time. The same time, right? Same place, but guess what? In God's will. All right, y'all.